It is getting cloudy out there, some rain coming in.
Indeed. Yeah, the skies are getting darker, so if you've got outdoor activities in and around the Twin Cities Metro, you might as well just kind of wrap those up, as we're going to see some scattered storms already starting to arrive. This is from the station Eden Prairie looking off to the south and southeast. There's a pretty solid wall of rain in here. Now, it's relatively small in the grand scale of things, but there's more across southern Minnesota as well. We've dropped to 77. We managed to run up and touch an 83 with the sunshine through about early afternoon as of a couple of hours ago. Dew point still in the middle 60s, so there's a lot of moisture around. Bigger picture, you can see the cloud cover arriving. Now some scattered storms in southeastern Minnesota starting to develop across the west and parts of Wisconsin as well, as we're all going to dance with the hit or miss style storms for the next several plus hours. The one we were actually seeing on that camera was right in there. So again, grand scheme of things, pretty tiny, but there's more across southern Dakota, southern Scott County near Northfield with some hefty downpours, and then kind of lining up right along the Interstate 35 corridor from Owatonna to Faribault as all this lifts and tracks off to the north. This is probably the first wave of more widespread shower and thunderstorm activity. Second wave down here near Kansas City, all that rotating around this giant area of low pressure, and it's going to be, well, pretty unsettled for the next 36 hours or so. We'll talk more on this. That 70 forecast coming up here in just a little over 15 minutes.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Cody. Federal prosecutors announced the first charges today in what they describe as a massive fraud scheme targeting Minnesota's Housing Stabilization Services. 8 men are accused of essentially stealing $10 million in taxpayer money. Fox 9's Corin Hoggard is live at the federal courthouse tonight. And Corin, this is a lot of money we are talking about here, but it sounds like this is just the tip of the iceberg at this point.
Yes, Simone, Minnesota was the first state to launch Medicaid's Housing Stabilization Services program. That was back in 2020, and it was supposed to cost like $2 or $3 million a year to try to help find and keep housing for folks like seniors and people with mental illness or just coming into recovery from alcohol or drugs. Instead of $2 or $3 million, though, it ended up costing more than $300 million over the course of 4.5 years. And federal prosecutors say that's because almost none of that actually went to help the people who needed the help. It was basically just all stolen.
Wow. When you think of these kinds of frauds, you think of course, the victims, the innocent people on the other end. Corin, you mentioned this being a relatively new program. How did investigators say it became such a hotbed for fraud where this kind of essentially just fell through the cracks?
Yeah, the Housing Stabilization Services program came into effect basically around the same time as a few others that really had like low barriers to people to get in. They were designed that way. I'm talking like child nutrition services that led to Feeding Our Future, and also autism center funding. And you know, the way that these things were designed, prosecutors say the fraudsters found and exploited the weaknesses, and they exploited them pretty hardcore. They say that basically, you know, the systems were not designed to handle a barrage of fraud, and so they were just kind of overwhelmed.
Everyone enrolls a company in, say, the Housing Stabilization Services. It's not just 10 or 20, but literally hundreds of them. And they all enroll essentially at the same time shortly after the program is started and start billing in a fraudulent way. It just overwhelms the system. And we've seen that in program after program after program.
So, Corin, let's talk about the people who are accused now. Are they still in business? Are they in custody? Where are they?
Yeah, well, 5 of the 8 folks who've been charged appeared in court here today. They all pleaded not guilty to all the charges. One of them actually told me that he's looking forward to seeing the evidence and proving his innocence. All 8 of the defendants will eventually be released on bond. They will be out in the community, but they will have conditions, including that they're not really allowed to communicate with anybody else who's involved in the HSS program on any level. As far as being in business, we did talk to some of their neighbors today. The lights were still on in some of the businesses, but really everybody around them says not much activity lately.
Wow, what a story. Well, I guess interested to hear what they have to say. Corin Hoggard reporting live in Minneapolis tonight. Thank you, Corin. We want to get to an update today on Lydia Kaiser. She's one of the children that was hurt during the shooting at Annunciation Church and School. A post on her GoFundMe page says Lydia has had a week of normalcy at home as she recovers. The page also added this photo you see here on your screen showing Lydia in a helmet to protect her skull. The post says Lydia is scheduled for another surgery sometime this week, saying, quote, "Can't go over it, can't go under it, gotta go through it. She is brave, she is strong, and we will pray." New at 5, we are getting a rare inside look at one of the largest crime labs in Minnesota on this National Forensic Science Week. The Hennepin County Sheriff invited our Rob Olson into their lab to see firsthand how one of the key pieces of their work is done. While DNA, of course, often grabs most of the headlines, the fingerprint remains a cornerstone of criminal investigations.
I've looked at over 1,000 prints in my 5 years.
Really?
Yes, easily.
A day in the life of Emma Vergis.
We just gently sweep across the surface.
Involves finding what we leave behind with everything we touch.
So I have the impressions of 4 fingers as if someone were holding the can in this way.
As a forensic scientist at the Hennepin County Sheriff's Crime Lab, Emma's job is a latent print examiner, be it fingers or palms or even feet.
And then trying to avoid air bubbles, following the item across.
And of the roughly 3,000 cases that come through this lab each year,
Pull off all at once.
about half will go through the print section.
And there you have a latent print lift.
There are many methods to find prints, but the 2 most prevalent remain either using various types of dust, this one applied with a magnetic brush to avoid smearing the print,
So this is one of our 3 super glue chambers.
or vaporizing superglue, which adheres to the oils left behind. The method used depends on the surface.
That's left behind by the super glue on the item, so we know that the process has worked.
In the case of the bottle, they added a spray of dye stain and then put it under a laser to help find additional prints that are otherwise hard to see.
Might have another area here on the bottom that's new.
All prints are then photographed or scanned and then carefully analyzed for their unique traits.
This one comes from the left and splits. So all of those features will be marked in analysis.
In the age of DNA, latent prints may seem so old school. The basic techniques are much the same as a century ago, but the science and technology used constantly evolves. They remain a fundamental part of forensic science, and prints can still do some things that DNA cannot.
One fun fact about latent prints is that identical twins have different fingerprints, whereas identical twins have the same DNA.
There you go. And by the way, the first fingerprint believed to have been used to solve a murder was back in 1892. So it's an old technique, but again, new technology. Often, fingerprints can be a key initial evidence point to a suspect. Investigators waiting for DNA to process, so that's how they can work hand in hand. Sometimes there's no usable DNA recovered, and prints are even more crucial then. Now, computers do play a role in fingerprint analysis, like national databases, for example, but most of the analysis is still done by trained experts like Emma, who have to painstakingly mark the prints and compare them. Simone, I tell you what, fascinating process to see it in action.
Yeah, so important. Their work, of course, so critical. It's very interesting to see behind the curtain. Thank you, Rob.
You bet.
Interesting story. Making more headlines today, 3 Pennsylvania police officers are dead and 2 are hurt after searching for a suspected stalker. The shooter was reportedly lurking in a nearby cornfield and shot at the officers as they went to serve a warrant on charges of stalking and criminal trespass. The shooter was also killed in a gunfight with police. In a big national headline tonight, ABC has suspended Jimmy Kimmel and his late night show after backlash over comments they say Kimmel made about the killing of Charlie Kirk. The move comes after pressure from 2 companies, both Nexstar and Sinclair. Those 2 own most of the ABC affiliate stations in the U.S. and threatened to pull Kimmel's show. Kimmel has not commented on the suspension. All right, let's talk about the Wild. The team was back at the practice rink today for their first practice of the new season. Star forward Kirill Kaprizov was also present as contract reports and rumors just swirl, of course, all over the internet. Fox 9's Jim Rich was there. All right, Jim, we want to know what's going on. Is Minnesota going to lose their star? What's happening?
Well, that is a major concern for Wild fans, Simone. You will recall how Marian Gabourik's time with the Wild ended. He just walked away, leaving as a free agent, and the Wild got absolutely nothing for him in return. Now Kirill Kaprizov is entering a window where that becomes a possibility as he enters the final year of his current contract. Certainly a great sign, though, was that Kirill was on the ice at the start of training camp at Tria Rink and looked great and was in a great mood. Now, the Wild are trying to lock up their superstar forward long term, possibly as much as 8 years. And the team reportedly offered a deal that would made him the highest paid player in the NHL. But no agreement so far. Today after practice, Kirill says it's up to his agent to work out all the details, and he says a contract isn't a top priority with him at this time.
We have a lot of time. It's just 2025, and it's one more year I have, and I just want to play in hockey and focus and win some games and go in playoffs and one there, and just focus on this now.
These negotiations are private. I can't really get into it. Things are fine. You know, the most important thing is that we want to sign Kirill. He's our franchise player. We want to keep him here. He's a big part of our team. We're working towards that. We're doing the best we can. And, you know, hopefully we'll get there sooner than later.
So the big question, Simone, is this: does he want more money than the reported $16 million plus a year, or does he want a shorter term contract, a bridge contract they call it, 3 or 4 years, or does he not feel he can win a Stanley Cup here in Minnesota and just wants out? Those are the answers that everyone is searching for tonight. But everybody's in a good mood so far. We'll see where this all goes. Yeah, it's just fine.
Things are fine.
We got a whole year here. Relax.
A lot of fingers are crossed, I can tell you that. Thanks, Jim.
You bet.
Well, still ahead here at 5, the Vikings with another day of practice, preparing for a battle with the Bengals. Despite their depleted lineup, and the Lynx have a few extra days of rest with a Game 2 win last night over a talented Golden State team. What a game. We'll have that and more coming up next on Fox 9.